Welcome everyone, LanceScurvX here, the Scurv podcast. Today's segment is The Curse of Awareness. Do you see too much to fit in anymore? I'm quite sure if you keep up with what I put out, we have similar mindsets. We may not be exactly the same, but there is some agreement in how we think, how we move. Not that I'm the epitome of anything, but I'm just saying we're somewhat kindred spirits. Maybe not. But I just want to say that whenever you have great awareness about the crap or the manipulation or how people can be two-faced around you, you don't really have a desire to be around them anymore. And they may think they're isolating you, but you're glad not to be around them. But the thing is, there comes a point in life when seeing very clearly stops feeling like a gift. At first, awareness feels empowering because you begin understanding things that once confused you. You notice patterns. You recognize manipulation faster. You hear what people are saying, but you also notice what they're avoiding. You watch expressions, timing, inconsistencies, sudden changes in behavior, and the strange difference between what people claim to believe and how they actually live. Two-faced. Eventually, you realize you're no longer simply listening to words. You're watching everything surrounding those words, and you're not dumb. I know this feeling because I've lived with it for most of my life. I've often felt like I could see through things that other people accepted without question. I could walk into certain situations and sense that something wasn't right long before anything openly happened. I can watch someone present themselves one way while their behavior quietly revealed something completely different. I could see the insecurity underneath the arrogance, the jealousy underneath the compliment, the competition underneath the friendship, and sometimes the manipulation underneath what appeared to be concern. I didn't always have the language to explain what I was seeing, but I knew I was seeing something. That kind of awareness can make life lonely. People sometimes assume that if you notice too much, you're negative. If you question too much, you're difficult. If you refuse to participate in something that everyone else considers normal, you're strange. If you notice contradictions, you're overthinking. If you recognize manipulation, oh, you're just suspicious. If you protect your peace, you're antisocial. And if you become comfortable spending time alone, some people begin wondering what's wrong with you. The possibility that you simply see life differently doesn't always occur to them. But awareness comes with responsibility. Seeing patterns doesn't mean I'm always correct. Feeling that something's wrong doesn't automatically make my interpretation a fact. I'm only human. Experience has taught me that real awareness requires humility because perception can be sharpened by wisdom. But it can also be distorted by disappointment, anger, fear, or previous experiences. It'll flavor them. It'll be a filter over what you see. So I've learned to observe carefully, wait for patterns, don't look for them, and don't assume, and allow actions to confirm what my instincts first suggested. That discipline has made my awareness stronger because I no longer feel the need to react to everything I notice. Let it play out. And that's where the real journey begins. Awareness isn't merely seeing through other people. It's learning to see through myself. It's understanding why certain situations disturb me, why certain personalities exhaust me, why certain environments feel artificial, and why solitude sometimes feels more honest than company. I've learned that losing the crowd isn't necessarily losing my way. Sometimes losing the crowd is exactly how I finally hear my own footsteps. Plus, we were born alone. And even if you pass away and transition from the physical next to somebody, you're still transitioning alone, right? So, knowing that this is a journey that's made for me, this is my own unique journey. At this point in my life, I never get swayed by what's around me, who's trying to whisper in my ear. Because as you can see in this particular banner that you're looking at, that deception can be right up under your nose with a smiling face. He who sees too much ends up not fitting in anywhere. There's a strange loneliness that comes from noticing what other people either don't notice or don't want to acknowledge. They're in denial. You can be standing in a room filled with people and still feel completely separate from what's happening around you. That happens to me all the time. Everybody may be laughing, socializing, networking, exchanging compliments, taking pictures, and appearing comfortable, while you're quietly noticing the tension underneath the surface. That's been one of the recurring themes of my life. I've often felt present physically while standing somewhere completely different mentally. I've always been that way. I can participate in a conversation while simultaneously noticing the emotional temperature of the room. I notice who needs attention. I notice who becomes uncomfortable when somebody else receives praise. I notice who changes personalities depending on who enters the room. I notice who laughs harder when someone powerful speaks. I notice who becomes dismissive toward people they believe can't benefit them. I see all of this stuff. And when it's directed at me, I really see it. But none of these things automatically make somebody evil. Human beings are complicated, very complicated. They're worse than a Rubik's Cube to figure out. We all have insecurities, weaknesses, contradictions, and moments when we're not completely honest with ourselves. But when you begin noticing these patterns repeatedly, social interaction can become exhausting. You begin wondering how much of what we call socializing is genuine connection and how much is performance. I know it's more performance than genuine connection. That question can separate you from the crowd. And that's the curse of awareness. I call it a curse sometimes because awareness removes certain comforts. Let's dig deep. Ignorance can be comfortable. If I don't recognize manipulation, I don't have to decide what to do about it. If I don't notice disrespect hidden inside humor, I can simply laugh and not feel the sting of the disrespect that the person is trying to inflict on me. If I don't recognize envy hiding underneath excessive curiosity, I can answer every personal question without thinking twice. If I don't understand how people gather information about others, I can reveal everything about myself and call it friendship. But it's not always that way. See, awareness complicates things. Once I recognize certain patterns, I have to make decisions. Do I confront them? Do I distance myself? Do I remain quiet and continue observing? Do I give someone another opportunity? Am I reading the situation correctly? Am I allowing a previous experience to influence my judgment? That internal conversation can become exhausting, no doubt, to wear you out. But I'd rather carry the burden of awareness than enjoy the comfort of blindness. Once you start seeing beneath the surface, the world doesn't seem that simple anymore. See, when I was younger, I believed words more easily. Most of us did. If someone said they loved me, I assumed love was present. If someone called me a friend, I assumed friendship existed. If someone smiled, I assumed they were happy to see me. If someone offered advice, I assumed they wanted the best for me. But you know what? Life taught me differently, much more differently. Now I understand that words and intentions aren't always the same thing. Someone can say, "I'm proud of you," while quietly resenting your progress. Someone can ask about your plans because they care, but another person can ask the same question because they're measuring themselves against you. Someone can give advice because they genuinely want to help, while somebody else gives advice because they want influence over your decisions. The words may sound identical, the intention can be completely different. That's why awareness looks beneath the sentence and the surface. Trust and believe. You start to see the games people play. Human beings play games constantly, sometimes without consciously realizing they're doing it. There's the attention game, the status game, the popularity game, the jealousy game, the victim game, the superiority game, the guilt game, the silent treatment game, the comparison game, the I don't care game played by people who desperately care what everyone thinks. I've watched people pretend not to want something they desperately wanted because admitting desire would make them feel vulnerable. I've watched people criticize what they secretly wish they possessed. I've watched people become cold towards someone immediately after that person began improving their life. I've watched conversations that appeared friendly become quiet competitions. Once you recognize those games, participating becomes very much difficult. You start asking yourself why you should pretend not to notice something simply because everyone else has agreed not to mention it. That's very dysfunctional. Some of the loudest confidence I've witnessed wasn't confidence at all. Real confidence usually doesn't need constant advertisement. A person who truly knows their worth doesn't always need to dominate the room. They don't need to humiliate someone weaker to feel powerful. They don't need every conversation to return to their accomplishments. They don't need everybody agreeing with them. That's why I've learned to distinguish confidence from performance. Sometimes arrogance is insecurity wearing expensive clothing. Sometimes constant bragging is fear begging for reassurance. Sometimes someone who appears extremely confident is simply working very hard to prevent anybody from seeing how uncertain they feel inside. When you understand that, people become easier to read, but they can also become harder to tolerate. Hidden motives. Hidden motives are where awareness becomes especially important. Not everyone asking questions deserves answers. That lesson took me years to fully understand. People ask where you live, what you earn, what you're planning, who you're dating, how your marriage is going, what you paid for something, what you're working on, where you're traveling, and what your next move will be. Some are simply curious, but I believe those are in the minority. And some genuinely care. And I believe many of those who act like they care are in the minority. But others are collecting information. Awareness teaches me not to assume the worst, but it also teaches me that privacy isn't dishonesty. I don't owe everyone access to my life. I don't owe everybody explanations. And I certainly don't owe everybody information simply because they were bold enough to ask or show up unexpectedly in front of your wall, in front of your door. Yeah, people will go to great lengths to get any bit of information from you. They'll come with their smartphone cameras and hold it over your wall and try to see inside your yard, hang out in front of your house, watch you on social media, and get mad when they can't get what they want. You're not gonna get it. Never. Hidden motives? I've seen it all. Society is built on making agreed upon illusions. It is. And the older I become, the more I understand how much society depends on appearances. We're constantly encouraged to look successful, look happy, look confident, look desirable, look wealthy, look important, and look fulfilled. Notice how often the emphasis is on the word looking. Social media magnified something that already existed in human behavior. People have always managed impressions. Technology simply gave us better tools for doing it. Someone can be miserable while posting happiness. Someone could be drowning financially while displaying luxury. Someone can be lonely while appearing socially surrounded. Someone can be deeply insecure while presenting themselves as completely confident. That doesn't mean everybody is fake. It means appearances are unreliable. You can't take it at face value, especially on social media. But awareness understands the difference. You can't unsee what you've learned to recognize. See, once you understand a pattern, returning to innocence becomes difficult. You can forgive people. You can release anger. You can heal. But forgetting the lesson would be foolish. If I've repeatedly watched someone manipulate situations, I can't simply pretend that the pattern never existed because they're behaving nicely today. If I've watched someone gossip about everybody who trusts them, I'm not going to convince myself that my secrets will somehow be protected. Because if they are bringing you something about somebody else, you best believe they're trying to get from you to bring something to somebody else. Eventually, I have to consider what that pattern means. Patterns speak. Awareness listens. Never forget that. Here's another one for you. When you speak up, people may say you're overthinking. This is where isolation often begins. You notice something, you mention it, and suddenly you're the problem. You're thinking too deeply. You're too sensitive. You take everything so seriously. You're imagining things. Sometimes they may be right. That's important to admit, sure. But sometimes those phrases become convenient ways of avoiding uncomfortable truths, especially when you're surrounded in a dysfunctional situation. There's a difference between overthinking and careful observation. Overthinking creates conclusions without enough evidence. Awareness notices patterns and waits for confirmation. That distinction has become important in my life. And the more I utilize taking my time and waiting to see the patterns, is a situation that leaves me 100% correct, right? This is not to say I'm never wrong, but when you wait to see the pattern and you're seeing it, a pattern, other people will begin to feel funny around you because they know that you can think deeply and analyze them. See, they can't come at you with their games and they don't feel comfortable. So they have to make up sometimes ways of banishing you from their life because they know you know the pattern and the rhythm and you're reading them like a cheap novel. So eventually, you stop talking. Silence becomes one of my greatest teachers. There was a time when I felt compelled to explain everything I noticed. I don't do that anymore. Some things don't require confrontation or even to be revealed. You just know where it is. Some people don't require explanations. Some situations reveal themselves perfectly if you simply remain quiet long enough. Lies can't hide for long. I mean, they can hide for years, but eventually everything comes out. And other people who are deceived against you, they'll say, oh, I'm using my name now. Lance was right. Or there was a reason why Lance was omitted from that group, or he stayed away from those people. I can see why. And I never had to say anything, right? I've learned that silence gives people room to show themselves. When I stop trying to control the conversation, correct the misunderstanding, expose the contradiction, or prove what I'm seeing, something interesting happens. People reveal more. Silence becomes observation, and observation becomes information. And you didn't have to say anything. It works itself out. This is the beauty of why we should all start observing more. And see, observation is not paranoia. I'm not walking around assuming everybody has bad intentions. That would be another kind of blindness. Instead, I watch consistency. Do words match actions? Does someone treat people differently depending on their status? Do they celebrate other people's success or immediately minimize it? That's something to watch. Do they respect boundaries? Can they apologize? Can they disagree without becoming disrespectful? Can they hear no without becoming angry? Usually it's the takers, the ones who want to use you for something, that will definitely get angry when you say no. Character reveals itself through repetition, and that's what I watch. The patterns, over and over. And patterns are revealed by these people who are deceptive around you unknowingly. A lot of times they don't even realize they're showing you the pattern, and you just pick up on it. And because of that, you stop belonging. Belonging becomes complicated when authenticity becomes more important than acceptance. There are environments where belonging requires performance. You must laugh at things you don't find funny if you want to be part of the club. Agree with things you don't believe if you want to fit in. Pretend not to notice things you clearly see. You see the pastor over there screwing around with some young girl from the congregation, right? It may not be for you to say anything, but how are you going to pretend not to notice? And when you notice, you're the bad guy. The pastor will pull you to the side and want to banish you out of the church because you noticed his conundrums, and his wife is there. You didn't tell anybody, but you see it, and it plays out. I mean, there's all kinds of situations. People embezzling money, people talking bad about the boss or the company. It could be a lot of things. But you become the bad guy when you notice these things. You tolerate disrespect to remain included. Reveal personal information to prove loyalty. Participate in gossip to demonstrate that you're part of the group. Not realizing that gossip train is going to come around your way and all your business is going to be all out in the street for everybody to know. I can't live like that. If belonging requires abandoning myself, the price is too high. No deal. I'm walking away. Not because you're better than anybody else. You see, they will try to throw this on you. But this point matters deeply to me. I want you to listen. Awareness can become ego if I'm not careful. It's easy for someone who recognizes manipulation to begin believing they're smarter than everyone. And that's a dangerous place to be. I'm only human too. I have blind spots. I've misjudged people. I've trusted people I shouldn't have trusted. I've probably doubted people who deserved more trust. I've misunderstood situations. I've reacted emotionally. All this in my growth. Awareness isn't perfection. The moment I believe I can see everything perfectly is the moment awareness becomes arrogance. So humility, when you have this awareness, is very important. You just can't participate in everything you understand. There are things I understand that I no longer want to participate in. I understand gossip. I understand competition. I understand status games. I understand attention seeking. I understand manipulation. I understand social posturing. Understanding something doesn't require joining in. Sometimes maturity means recognizing the game and leaving the table. That decision can make life quieter, but quiet isn't always loneliness. Sometimes quiet is freedom. And oh boy, I'm so free right now in the present day in my life. But awareness can isolate you. See, there's no reason to romanticize isolation. Sometimes walking alone hurts. Human beings need connection. I still value meaningful conversation, laughter, companionship, community, and genuine relationships. But the thing is, I have what I need out of those categories now. I have all of that right now. But it's been pruned down, trimmed down, and all of the fluff and fat and unnecessary entities have been taken away from my life. So it's streamlined and very much satisfying. But I'd rather experience periods of solitude than surround myself with people who require me to become smaller, quieter, more fake, or less aware just to remain accepted. That kind of company creates a deeper loneliness than solitude ever could. Being alone and being lonely aren't the same things. I can be alone and peaceful, in the house laughing, listening to music, thinking of old jokes, having a good time. But I can also be surrounded by people and feel completely invisible. I've experienced both. Guess which one I want to choose? Clarity costs. Sometimes it costs friendships. Sometimes it costs invitations to gatherings that you really don't want to go to. Sometimes it costs popularity. Sometimes it costs access to certain groups. Sometimes it will cost you the comfort of pretending everything is fine. The comfort of pretending? You don't want to be bothered with that. But clarity gives something back. You know what that is? Peace. When I stopped forcing relationships, chasing approval, explaining myself endlessly, and participating in situations that disturb my spirit, my life becomes simpler. Not easier, but simpler. And there's a big difference when you think about those two words. The loneliest part is trying to explain it and explain yourself. How do you explain awareness to someone who hasn't experienced what you're describing? You usually can't. If someone hasn't noticed the patterns you've noticed, your explanation can sound extreme. That's why I've stopped requiring everyone to understand me. Understanding is beautiful when it happens, but I no longer make it a requirement for my peace. Some people will understand me, some won't. Both can continue living their lives, and so can I. I don't have to convince anybody or make them see anything, but it's funny down the road when they see things eventually, or things come out, and they'll ask me, "Did you notice it?" And if I say yes, "Oh, you're lying." You can't win. I'll just say no just like them, right? And they'll always say you're too sensitive. But see, sensitivity has been treated like weakness for too long. Sensitivity can mean noticing subtle changes. It can mean recognizing emotional shifts. It can mean hearing what isn't being said. It can mean noticing when someone becomes uncomfortable, withdrawn, jealous, afraid, or hurt before they say anything. Yes, sensitivity can become overwhelming without boundaries. But properly managed sensitivity can become discernment. The goal isn't becoming numb, The goal is learning what deserves my emotional energy. Maybe I'm serious about certain things. I'm serious about peace. I'm serious about integrity. I'm serious about protecting my time. I'm serious about not allowing manipulation into my life. I'm serious about understanding myself. There's nothing wrong with laughter, enjoyment, humor, or relaxation. I love those things too, but I refuse to treat everything as a joke simply because seriousness makes somebody uncomfortable. Some things deserve thought. Some things deserve deep thought. And they'll say you're too much because of it. But I've learned something more important about being called too much. Sometimes too much simply means I'm unwilling to shrink myself enough to make somebody comfortable. Too observant, too independent, too private, too direct, too thoughtful, too unwilling to play along. I can work on my flaws without apologizing for my depth. Those are two completely different things. And one thing's for sure, you better know how to learn to walk in isolation. This has probably been one of the greatest lessons of my life. Walking alone isn't about rejecting humanity. It's about becoming comfortable enough with myself that desperation for companionship doesn't force me into unhealthy relationships. When you fear solitude, almost anybody can become attractive simply because they're available. That's dangerous. That's a dangerous place to be. That's a dangerous mindset to have. Loneliness can make people tolerate disrespect. Loneliness can make people reveal too much. Loneliness can make people return to relationships they already know are unhealthy. So I had to learn solitude. I had to become someone whose own company didn't frighten me. And let me tell you something. I'm my best friend and I love being with myself. I can't get enough of myself. That's not narcissistic. That's efficiency. And solitude has become my classroom. When the noise around me disappeared, I began hearing myself. That's when I started understanding how much energy I once spent explaining myself, how much time I spent trying to be understood, how often I tried to rescue relationships that had already revealed their limitations, how often I ignored my instincts because I didn't want to appear judgmental. Solitude forced me to examine those patterns within myself. It didn't simply teach me about other people. It taught me about myself. And this is why I can move so much more comfortably in my own skin. It's really a phenomenal experience because your day and your days as they pass by, you feel so good. You feel so efficient. You feel so, maybe I'm trying to explain something that many people don't understand because there's so many people out here, especially on social media, seeking validation and approval. I don't seek none of it. I do what I do. I do what I enjoy. I live my life with no explanations, right? But there's another side of awareness that rarely gets discussed. You can see manipulation so often that eventually you expect manipulation everywhere. You can experience betrayal so many times that eventually you assume everybody will betray you. You could recognize fake behavior so frequently that eventually you stop believing genuine people exist. Now that isn't awareness anymore. That's bitterness. I refuse to allow awareness to become a prison. I still give people opportunities. I simply watch what they do with them. I still believe genuine people exist. I simply don't assume everyone is genuine, right? I remain open without remaining naive. That balance matters. And see, in this lifetime, you can't have the negative situations that you've been through flavor your mind, that you just cut off from humanity and think everybody's gonna do this to you or whatever. That means those knuckleheads who did you wrong, that means they won. No, they don't win. I still give people chances. This is why I have new relationships that have nothing to do with the old stuff. I don't even bring up old situations. I don't bring up old trials and tribulations. I've moved on. It's like when you take a shower, you might have been working in your yard, gardening or farming, and you have dirt on you, you wash the dirt off completely. It goes down the drain. Do you mourn the dirt? Oh, I missed the dirt. No, the dirt was no good on you. It's good for the yard to grow the plants, plant the seeds and water it under the sun. But no, old dirt is gone. Every day is an opportunity for a new experience, and it's just such a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing. See, discernment without paranoia, that's the key. Real discernment requires evidence, okay? I can sense something and still admit I might be wrong because you don't have the evidence yet. I can notice something and wait because you might not be sure that's it. I can have an instinct without turning that instinct into an accusation. That discipline protects me from becoming the very thing I criticize. Awareness should make me wiser, not suspicious of everybody, not angry at the world, not convinced that I'm surrounded by enemies. Wisdom knows that some people are manipulative, some are confused, some are insecure, some are wounded. A lot of hurt people out here. Some are selfish. They just don't want what you give them, they want what you have. And some are genuinely good. My job isn't to label everybody. My job is to recognize what belongs close to me. And that's the main thing. That's my main concern. Eventually, you may lose the crowd. That can hurt initially. We're conditioned to measure our value through numbers. How many friends? How many followers? How many invitations? How many people call? How many people approve? But let me tell you something. Crowds don't automatically equal connection. 10 shallow relationships can leave me lonelier than one genuine conversation. Popularity isn't intimacy. Attention isn't love. Access isn't loyalty. And being surrounded isn't the same thing as being understood. You might lose the crowd, but you'll find yourself. That's where this journey eventually brought me. I stopped asking why I didn't fit everywhere. Maybe I wasn't supposed to. I stopped asking why certain conversations exhausted me. Maybe my mind was telling me that those conversations no longer fed me. I stopped feeling guilty for needing solitude. I stopped believing every relationship needed to be saved. I stopped believing every misunderstanding needed correction. I stopped believing everybody needed access to me. And somewhere inside that silence, I found myself. Not a perfect version, not a superior version, just a clearer version. I've learned that awareness isn't about exposing everybody around me. It's about understanding enough to choose wisely. I don't need to announce every manipulation I recognize. I don't need to confront every contradiction. I don't need to prove that my instincts were correct. Sometimes knowing is enough. Sometimes quietly changing my distance is enough. Sometimes walking away without drama is the strongest statement available. I've also learned that isolation doesn't have to become my permanent identity. There's a difference between enjoying solitude and building walls so high that nobody can reach me. I don't want awareness to destroy my ability to connect. I want awareness to improve the quality of the connections I allow. I'd rather have fewer relationships built on honesty than many relationships built on performance. So if I appear strange because I observe before speaking, I can live with that. If someone believes I'm oversensitive because I recognize subtle disrespect, I can live with that too. If somebody thinks I'm antisocial because I protect my peace, they're free to think whatever they choose. I've spent enough of my life trying to explain myself to people committed to misunderstanding what they haven't experienced. You have to go through what I went through first to understand why I am the way I am, but I'm not going to sit here and explain it to you when you're not going to understand it. The greatest freedom came when I stopped requiring the crowd to validate what I already knew about myself. I don't need everybody walking beside me. I don't need everybody agreeing with me. I don't need applause for choosing peace. I don't need permission to distance myself from environments that repeatedly disturb my spirit. I can love humanity without allowing everybody into my personal space. And maybe that's the real gift hidden inside what I once considered the curse of awareness. Yes, seeing deeply can make the road lonely. Yes, recognizing manipulation can make ordinary social games difficult to tolerate. Yes, refusing to perform can reduce the size of the crowd around me. But if losing the crowd means finding my own mind, protecting my peace, sharpening my discernment, and finally becoming comfortable walking in my own truth, I understand the price now. I might walk alone sometimes, but at least I know who's doing the walking. And you can't make it any better than that. Trust and believe. Trust LanceScurv on this one. It's a beautiful thing. And I hope this has helped you to understand that awareness is not really a curse. It could feel that way, but at the end of the day, it's one of the biggest blessings when controlled and not allowed to take over your mind or assume certain things, because the biggest thing we can take away from this is watch for the patterns. Watch for the patterns. They will tell you everything, and you'll have a more peaceful life. I can attest to that. Much love to you all. I'm on to the next one. It's always enjoyable. Share this with other people who may need it. Always go to LanceScurvX.com to get everything that I put out. And have a wonderful day, evening, night, whenever you're listening to this. And know that 24 hours won't go by before we have something else put up for you to enjoy. Let me know what you want to talk about. I'm easy to contact. Much love to you all. LanceScurv out. Peace.